Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of All Things Considered. As usual, support USARC. I am a bronze member. Boom. All right, let's see who's here. Good morning, Stan. Thanks for tuning in. Ken, how's it going? Thanks for tuning in. All right, so I wanted to do today's show about my experience vending for the first time this past Saturday at Gettysburg. So it was definitely a fun experience. I will say that. It was a really long day. We left at, I think, 5 in the morning, so I was up at 4, getting everything ready. So it was a really long day. I got back like sometime after 9 because we did go out for dinner and drinks afterwards with my buddy Brad. Luckily for me, he drove, so I didn't really have to do that part. But it was a really, really long day, and I want to thank Chris at B&S Reptilia for hooking me up with some table space. He's always been real good to me, so that was nice of him to give me the opportunity to dip my toes in the water for vending. So it was great also to be able to pick his brain as I'm standing next to him in between. When we had people coming through our tables, he's in a pretty good location at Gettysburg. So when you walk in the front door, there's Nathan from Infinite Possible Pythons and Triforce, and then Chris has his little island. So it's really good real estate, getting people coming in that first, going down the first aisle. We were on, our little sliver was on the left on the left as you were walking in, and Chris had a little U there in the middle. But yeah, it was pretty good real estate. Chris had some cool stuff. He had some pine snakes and things like that that were on my part of the table that were catching people's eyes, and then people were looking at our stuff. But it was a really, really, really nice experience. Unfortunately, there was another show in the area, in Philadelphia area. So there were 2 shows the same weekend in southeastern and south central PA. So I mean, they're all competing with the same market of people buying and the same market of vendors. So they're split between 2 shows, which is not good. So I think that contributed a lot to there being a slower show. There wasn't a lot of, I didn't feel there was a lot of overall foot traffic. I mean, there wasn't downtime, but it wasn't like it was packed. There's definitely room if you wanted to walk around. You could probably look at everybody's table without, having to wait behind somebody. And I know Oaks, last time I was there, was similar. It was a slower show, but it was also a bigger venue when I'm used to Hamburg in that field house. It's tiny. So, if I'm basing it off of that, then, it's not really a good show to compare to because it was small. You can say the same thing this weekend. Scranton is same time as Bloomsburg. Now, maybe that just happened because I know Bloomsburg is new, and this happened to be the date they could get. But yeah, I think because I know some of these are planned out well in advance. Share your schedules, and then if you're running a show, look at the other schedule, see if you can make any changes. Because if you don't have a competing show, you might get more people in the door. You might get more vendors to show up instead of them being split. So I'm not going to Scranton or Bloomsburg this weekend, even though they are relatively close. I just can't. I'm not in the market to buy anything, and I'm not going to drive up there, spend $10 or whatever it is to get in, go hang around and talk to people that I can talk to. Now, it's not like I would be interacting with the public really too much. So from like a marketing and branding perspective, it doesn't make sense for me to do that for these smaller shows, unless I'm helping somebody vend, or I can get in for that vendor price, or there's some group sort of event that's happening, like we're all going out for dinner or something afterwards. I might do it for that reason, because there's something else involved. But yeah, not on these smaller shows. It's not worth it to go and not, either vend or pick up something, in my opinion. Now for like Daytona, Tinley, these big like national shows, yeah, it totally makes sense to spend the money, because you're meeting a lot of people that you wouldn't meet at your normal shows, and you're seeing a lot of national big time vendors that do these shows. Oh, okay, that's interesting there, Ken. But it's another show. I saw there's another one going on in Hershey. It's another, Well, thank you, Danny. That means you're one of them. Actually, Danny had a really good, really good show this weekend. Lots of people were at his table. I guess it must have been the Yoo-hoo. But yeah, I mean, we have. I think we have entirely too many smaller reptile shows, or reptile shows that are on at the same time. That's just my opinion. And Danny, of course, he comes in to take a dig at me. That's fine. But yeah, I mean, it was nice to be there. Unfortunately for me, I didn't sell too many things, but my buddy Brad, it was at the table next to, or on the table next to me, he sold 5 ball pythons and 7 and 2 Brooks king snakes. The king snakes were priced dirt cheap, and we knew they would fly. But he had some bell stuff, mystic potions, things like that, and they moved. He made some deals, and they were visually appealing, right? People are buying with their eyes, and nobody seemed to care if you had, like an orange dream double het, whatever. It didn't matter to a lot of these people. So, I learned something from that, because I had 3 breeder size girls that I had priced at $100 a piece, and they're not that visually appealing. But they are snakes that are going to eat the same size meal. They're pretty much done growing for the most part, if you're not going to breed them. So, from the pet side, if I want a ball python, I would have been more enticed to buy that, because the hard part of raising the thing up is over. So I was surprised they didn't go, but it makes sense, because they're not, they look like normals, if you will. And I did bring a pastel and a champagne pastel female, but they were a year old and not as visually stunning, if you will. They're starting to, the color's starting to brown out and things like that. And I didn't have them priced great at the beginning of the show, and by the time I had knocked the price down, it was towards the end, and I probably missed some opportunities there. And same with the breeders. Maybe if they were priced lower, if I was like Danny Claus and you had them for like $25, they probably would have left. So for me, it was, I learned, what sort of not to bring. And I did have, and I regret not bringing them, I did have a pastel hatchling I could have brought, and that would have been listed for $20. That probably would have gone. And I had a leopard pastel female that was ready to go, and she probably would have gone, because she looks pretty decent. And and those are all snakes that I produced that I'm not holding back. So I probably should have brought those too, and maybe I would have had a sale on my own. But from looking at the overall show, talking to people, with the exception of Danny over here, it was slow. So that looking that we sold 7 animals, and that Brad did not have any of his branding stuff on my little portion of the table. It looked like I did a lot better, because everybody was taking my cards, my stickers, seeing my logo. So, hopefully, some of these people reach out about other animals, things like that, or subscribe on social media and things like that. So overall, I think for me, it was a good experience. I would have liked to have sold more, but it is what it is. The market's slow. There's too many ball python breeders right now. Yeah, it is what it is. But it's not going to deter me from doing it again in the future, because we drove out and drove back. We didn't spend too much money at the show itself, and so we were only in for gas and dinner. So really, it wasn't too terrible. as far as the expense side of things goes. Would I have liked to recoup, the table on my end? Yeah, that would have been nice. But at the end of the day, it was an experience. I think I'm definitely going to relook at, what I, intend to bring to these shows when I do them again. Because I think there's, yeah, Danny, I said that earlier. I think that definitely didn't help splitting, the market that we have down here in PA. But I didn't have much for the table anyway, so it was sort of, is what it is. If my clutches were better this year, I would have had more stuff that was, hatchling size, if you will, still visually appealing before it, ages. So I don't think I'm going to change up, necessarily my breeding plans. I'm just going to be less, if it is something that I'm ultimately going to sell, if it doesn't sell on morph market, something like that with hets and things like that, it's going to go for, dirt cheap. It was never intended to be held back just to move it. I think that's where I'm going. So it'll be stuff I hit as a byproduct of what I'm, working towards in these projects. And I'm still probably going to make some pies and like bell stuff just because I know that stuff, is visually appealing and it'll move, but it's only going to be like one clutch of each. I'm not going to try to make too many because right now my size is pretty much like a half of a table. So it doesn't really make sense for me to, go fully all in yet because of the size of my breeding projects. I'm only doing maybe 5 or 6 this year because I'm taking a couple out of the rotation because I want to have less overall inventory. So if I was pairing, the butter, the black pastel, and the super pastel that I had for sale, that's 3 possible more clutches with, one's going to be all pastels, and we know the market temperature on those, they're pretty much $20 snakes right now. And who knows with, I could do the same pairing I did with the butter last year, but I'm already doing one with the Blue-Eyed Lucy I have. So it would be 2 similar clutches. Yeah, I introduced Mojave, but at the end, it's still similar looking animals. And then the black pastel, I have stuff going with cinnamon. So I might pair the black pastel to Ultramel pin. I don't know yet. But I don't want to just make clutches to make clutches. And I know I sound like a broken record on this. But if I'm going to make something that's going to sit in my rack for a year, what's the point, right? So if I do make those things, they're going to go to a show and they're going to go pretty cheap, regardless of if there's hets in there or not, because nobody, if you're buying a pet, you don't really care about that. You're seeing what it looks like, and that's certainly played a part in what I experienced in my little corner. I didn't really get a chance to walk around and see what everybody had, what everything was priced at. Brad did a little bit of that, but at the end of the day, it's one less mouth to feed. And the hope for me is that on a higher end project that I'm going to, that I might bring to the show, but not really drop the price on, hopefully that sale recoups, the lower priced snakes that I would have on the table. And maybe even then I might drop the prices on the breeder size girls, just to move them because it's one less, mouth to feed and it opens a rack space. And I probably should have done that on Saturday, but it is what it is. Lessons learned. We come back. It's getting to the point now where, that was probably the last chance I could have moved those things without doing something local because it is getting cold here. And the shipping window pretty much today probably would have been like the last day I would have shipped, depending on the temperatures. So they're going to be here, until it warms up again. And I'll try to figure something out, whether it's another show or doing something on YouTube or social media where I'm able to, move them for a price that that I'm comfortable with, where if they have to be shipped, somebody else is covering that. So I don't know. I'll figure that out when it comes. But right now they're all back in the rack. I might wholesale some of these hatchlings just to free up room for next year, because not that I don't care about the animals. It's I made them to sell, and if the market dictates that they are relatively inexpensive, then it is what it is. I'll eat that cost. I'm doing this for me. I'm not doing this to be to do it full time. If that ever happens, that's great. But this is a passion of mine. It's a hobby. It was a hobby before I started doing this. It'll be a hobby after. And if it ever gets to the point where I'm not happy, I'm not passionate about it, then it's time for me to get out. And I don't think that'll happen. But yeah, we'll see. The one bright side of the show, for me at least, aside from seeing everybody that was there, was I finally got into DG. I just picked her up there. I did not buy her there. So I came home with a net positive 2 snakes. Move your head. So I got this one from Chris from Balls Deep. I had purchased her earlier and just picked her up at the show because it was easier. That was the next time that we were all seeing each other. So I am happy to finally be into that. And she has possibly had hypo, so when she sheds, she'll get tested for that. And I also have, eventually, once they're paid off, I will have a blackhead leopard DG, possible het pied male, and a leopard DG, possible het pied girl coming in. So I think for me, those will be tested too. I think for me, that's a good way to get into DG with some codoms and some possible, other hets. So I'm excited for that. And yeah, I know I'm late to the party, but that's why, I figured, it was a good opportunity to get the codoms and the possible heads. I'll test for them. And if they are visual, het pieds, visual, and hypos, then I can work some of the stuff that I do have ready for breeding, with the intention of, possibly pairing it to one of those 2 girls. Now, I do think in the first year, if they're both the girls are ready at the same time, I'll probably have something, ultramel pied, hopefully by then. So if I compare that to like one of the hypo girls, I could have, a triple het. A triple het ultramel hypo pied with, a bunch of codoms in it. And I can take that and pair it to the DG, het hypo, and possibly get a visual triple het, something like that. If everything is 100%. So, I mean, that's something, an idea that I have if everything works out. Obviously, I'd be taking that male since he'd be ready earlier and putting him to, maybe my Etchy Yellow Belly Pastel Clown, something like that to sort of, get double het, pos het with codoms, just to sort of, I'm trying to figure out how I take these double recessive projects I have and make them into, bigger projects. But at the end of the day, so the stuff I miss on the stuff that, I don't, that I'm ultimately not holding back, right? The stuff that's going to be pos hets that I'm not going to test the sheds for if I'm not holding them back. The stuff that's single gene stuff that, where I didn't hit. That's the stuff that's I'm probably going to be putting on my table along with the bell stuff and the pine stuff. Or, that'll be up for sale on, Morph Market, Craigslist, where have you. So I'm really excited, for the future here, and for me, I can weather this. Good morning, Don. I don't know if I put you up there. I can weather this market since I do breed my own rodents. Yes, the prices have gone up for supplies and things like that, and the prices have gone down on most ball pythons. But I'm doing this as a hobby. It's rather than going to all these concerts or going out partying and things like that, I do this. But I am excited for the future. I've had a few locks already this year. My Super Pastel Leopard Butter has locked twice with the bell. So hopefully, I everything in that clutch would be pastel butter or pastel Mojave. So that's an improvement on just pairing to the butter. And I would have 2 different types of blue-eyed Lucy's that I could make. And I should be able to tell the difference between the 2. So that's so hopefully that goes. And the other lock I had was my clown possible blade. I don't know if it's there or not. It looks it, but it could just be a reduced clown. It's possibly het orange ghost, and he was locked to my orange dream possible double het clown orange ghost. So hopefully, they prove. I'm hoping at least that the clown proves. That way, there's something there, and it's not a bunch of normals and orange dreams that I'm probably going to move on from. So I'm really hoping that at least one of the 2 recessive proves. I know obviously if it does prove, I might get 1 or 2 maybe, and a bunch of other stuff. So that'll be for sale. So I know that going in, it just I would really like it was sort of a gamble project that I got into for relatively inexpensive, and it's my first shot at hitting a double visual, and they've already locked, so there's no sense in me sending in the sheds. And I was planning to do that pairing anyway. But if I do hit it, that's great. I know Clown Hypo is relatively inexpensive right now overall. So if I do miss it, I can always, buy a visual with code OMS and, get rid of those 2 or, move them to different projects, things like that. But yeah, I'm excited. Like I said, for the future. I do have some Ultramel stuff that's getting paired. I'll be making hets with code OMS. Hopefully, I can make some pied and Ultramel stuff. But again, if I can't move those pieds and I'm not holding them back, they might move for less than what a visual het would be if I have to move them. I'm hoping that I have some people interested in the project that I'll be able to make some deals on before I have to fire sale, if you will. So I'm hoping to hit a male because I don't have a visual pied male anywhere right now. I'm using my buddy Brad's visual firefly pied to pair to my het pied. Just because the odds are significantly better than me pairing my Ultramel het pied to her. Because that's definitely better. I had to think about that in my head. Everything would be het Ultramel, obviously the visual pieds if I hit it, but the odds are better me pairing a visual pied to her rather than that project. So she's going to go up there again. We'll see what happens. All right, I am hitting close to the end of this. So, I mean, unless, I see a massive deal on something that I absolutely want or need. In here, I'm probably done buying stuff for a while. Once I get these 2 GG animals here. And I'm going to focus more on infrastructure, right? Like getting an ultrasound. And sort of ramping up to sort of take this to the next level. Because at some point I will, because I'm going to go over the threshold in Pennsylvania from being a hobbyist breeder to actually being a breeder and I won't be able to get away with, sharing table space, doing certain things that I'm doing now and taking advantage of. So we'll see. I'm excited. I can't wait to see what this year, what happens this year, what happens next year, as some of these animals that I've purchased since I started doing this seriously as they're growing up. I have some stuff coming up next year that'll be that I'm excited about. I have a pied head Ultramel girl that'll be ready, a clown, or an Enchi yellow belly pastel clown, spot nose leopard girl growing up, super vanilla trick, possible het clown girl growing up. What else is over here? Blackhead, yellow belly girl, that'll be exciting. A lace male that should be ready. So, there's a lot of stuff that I picked up that I'm excited to work and sort of getting away from, just the bell stuff and some of the yellow belly colic stuff that I was doing, that I did last year. So I'm excited that I'll finally be able to work some of these recessive projects, because I got into a lot of them buying hatchlings rather than adults, just because it's less expensive to buy the hatchling than it is to buy a proven breeder. So I went that route. So I've been growing these things up, and I have half my hatchling rack is stuff from other people that I'm growing up. So hopefully my stuff that's in the hatchling rack, I can move that, and then eventually it'll just all be my stuff. And where I need to add something, hopefully later I can add a proven breeder, just because I'm able to start like that now. And I was sort of against that when I got in, because I wanted to, get the snakes and grow them up myself. That way I was able to, know the snakes, rather than just getting them from somebody and starting right away. I was able to, do a couple of years having multiple ball pythons rather than just one or two, and sort of get their mannerisms, get their, the feeding schedules, get all that stuff sort of known, rather than getting something and going, I guess it doesn't eat. Things like that. So for me, I prefer to do it that way. But I think now, going back, I probably would have bought some more adults and hatchlings. That way I would sort of have a variety, and I would be able to at least get started breeding earlier. But yeah, I'm excited for the future. I had a great time at the show. It was great seeing people like Phil, even though it was for maybe 5 minutes at best. There were a lot of people that I talked to that were there. I got to see, for the most part, everybody. I don't think I missed anybody that I talked to on a regular basis. Though the one thing I do regret is not going around and walking the show. I was, sort of busy setting up, talking to the people in, our little area of the show, and rather than walking around and seeing, checking out Phil's table or Matt's table or Kai's table, everybody that was sort of not in the little area I was in. So, I mean, I do regret that, and seeing some of the other vendors that were there, like Holker's Herps was there, American Made Exotics. Like there were a lot of other tables that I would have loved to just take my time and look through to see what they had, instead of just a glimpse as I was walking in and walking out. But overall, it was a good experience. I think I learned a lot. I think I stopped by kind of at the end. But yeah, Phil had stopped by our table once or twice. I think the only time I did leave was right before the doors open. I went to the bathroom, and then when it was lunchtime, I went to grab lunch. That was I did see your table as I was leaving, but you were already packed up. But the only other time I left was to grab the show pizza. That was I would have rather gotten Little Caesars, but it was a part of the table, so I wasn't going to complain about food and a bag of chips and whatnot. It was definitely needed, as far as because I think I had just had coffee up until that point. But yeah, it was a long day. I enjoyed it. It was nice seeing everybody outside of it. It was the first time in a while that I'd seen everybody outside of like a barbecue or something like that. Phil, that adequately describes the pizza. But the free Mountain Dew was worth it. I mean, I definitely think for an included lunch, it was good. It's like one of those hotel breakfasts that they have the really nice picture, but at the end of the day, it's just like a waffle maker and like the cereal things and some juice. But anyway, I would have preferred something better, but it was sustenance, and it helped get me through until dinner. But yeah, I do it again. Probably a closer show. because I can't see myself justifying getting a hotel room for one night or two and staying out there. It is, that ups the cost, which means I have to sell a lot of more to recruit. So, if I do it again, it'll probably be, hopefully Brad can go because his car is more fuel efficient, and we'll just split the cost again. But all right, I've hit 8 o'clock. It means I got to get off to my day job. And I would love to do this a lot longer and continue to talk shop and talk reptiles and talk about my projects and what I'm doing here. But I got to go pay the bills. So with that being said, thank you for tuning in. Check me out on Saturday. I don't know. I didn't check the time of the Penn State game, so I don't know if I'm going live early or my normal time or doing a pre-record. That's to be determined. I'll post something during the week. I believe I am hosting the RWO show. That's on Thursday night with Ken, Stan, and Justin. And whoever else is going to be on there. I think Vance is going to be on there as well. So that's what I have coming up this week. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, and we will see you next time.